Most dog owners are doing something every single day that's slowly pushing their dog away, and they have absolutely no idea it's happening. You think you're being a great owner. You think your dog loves everything you do. But the truth? Some of the most common ways people show love to their dogs are being completely misread. Not ignored, misread. Your dog is getting a different message than the one you're sending. And here's what makes this so frustrating. These aren't rare mistakes. They're things you're probably doing right now, today, multiple times a day. But here's the good news. There are 7 things, each one takes under a minute, that will completely change how your dog sees you. Not just as their owner, not just as the person who fills the bowl, as their person, the one they choose above anyone else in the world. Welcome to Canine Mind. If you're new here, subscribe right now, because what we're about to cover changes everything. Let's start with the one that almost every single dog owner gets completely backwards. 1. Think about what happens the moment you walk through that front door. Your dog loses their mind, spinning, jumping, whining, maybe even grabbing something just to have something to do with all that energy. And what do most owners do? They look at the dog and say down or stop, or they turn their back until the dog calms down. It makes sense on the surface. You don't want to reward the chaos. You've probably read that ignoring the behavior is the right call. But here's what nobody is telling you about what's actually happening inside your dog's brain in that moment. Dogs are pack animals, wired for reunion rituals. In the wild, when pack members return after being apart, there's an entire social exchange that takes place. Greeting behaviors, scent checks, vocalizations. It's not random excitement. It's a bonding protocol that's been hardwired into dogs for thousands of years. That moment of reunion is one of the most emotionally significant moments of your dog's entire day. When you shut it down, even calmly, even with the best of intentions, your dog doesn't understand why the ritual was cut short. Over time, dogs in these households show lower levels of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, during greetings. The excitement doesn't go away. It just becomes anxiety. Here's what the science actually supports instead. A study published in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science found that dogs who received warm, engaged greetings from their owners showed significantly lower cortisol levels, that's the stress hormone, throughout the rest of the day. Not just in the moment, for hours afterward. So the daily habit is this. When you walk through that door, give your dog 30 seconds. Get on their level. Let them sniff you. Talk to them. Let the reunion actually happen. You're not rewarding chaos. You're completing a biological script your dog has been waiting all day to finish. 30 seconds, and your dog will be calmer, more settled, and more bonded to you for the rest of the evening because of it. But that's just the beginning, because the next one is something almost every owner does during what they think is their most loving moment with their dog, and it's doing the opposite of what they intend. 2. You've probably stared into your dog's eyes and felt something real. That deep, quiet connection that doesn't need words.
And you'd be right to feel that. There's actually extraordinary science behind what happens when dogs and humans lock eyes. A landmark study out of Azabu University in Japan found that mutual eye contact between dogs and their owners causes a spike in oxytocin in both the dog and the human. Not just one of them, both. It's the same hormonal response that happens between a mother and her newborn child. Eye contact literally triggers the bonding system in both species simultaneously. Here's where it goes wrong. Most people stare at their dogs the wrong way. Sustained, unblinking, intense eye contact, even from someone the dog loves, can read as a challenge, as pressure, as confrontation. Dogs communicate dominance and threat through hard, unblinking stares. So when you hold that gaze too long with too much intensity, even with love in your eyes, your dog's nervous system starts to read it as tension. You'll see the signs if you know what to look for. A slight look away, a lip lick, a yawn, a subtle lowering of the head. These aren't signs of boredom or distraction. They're your dog trying to diffuse what their instincts are telling them is a tense situation. The right kind of eye contact is soft. It's relaxed. Your face is loose, your eyes are slightly squinted, not wide and fixed. Think about how you look at someone you feel completely at ease with. That softness is what your dog's brain is reading. Make this a daily habit. Every morning, when your dog is calm and near you, look at them with soft eyes and slightly raised eyebrows. Hold it for just a few seconds and let your face be warm. Your dog will hold that gaze longer. Their tail will move differently. Their whole body will shift from alert to at ease. And once you understand how powerful nonverbal communication is with your dog, you will not believe what we're about to cover in number 5. Because there's one specific physical gesture that most owners never use, and it unlocks a level of trust that almost nothing else can reach. Keep watching, because we're just getting started. 3. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your dog's brain when they're just lying around while you're at work, running errands, or even just sitting in the next room. Dogs are problem-solving animals. Their brains were shaped over millennia by a life that required tracking, decision-making, reading environmental cues, and executing complex behaviors to survive and work alongside humans. They were bred, literally bred, to have jobs: herding, hunting, guarding, retrieving. The mental output required for those tasks isn't just a nice bonus, it's a biological need. When that need goes unmet, something happens that most owners mistake for bad behavior. Chewing furniture, barking at nothing, pacing, digging, stealing socks. These aren't your dog being naughty. These are the behavioral symptoms of a brain that has too much capacity and not enough to do with it. Here's what's fascinating. A study from the University of Bristol found that dogs who received daily mental enrichment, puzzle feeders, scent games, training sessions, showed measurably lower levels of stress hormones than dogs who only received physical exercise. Let that sink in. Mental stimulation was more powerful at reducing stress than a long walk. The daily habit here takes 5 minutes. Hide small portions of your dog's food around the house and let them sniff it out. Teach them one new word or behavior each week and practice it for 3 minutes a day. Use a slow feeder or puzzle bowl at mealtime. Make them work, just a little, for something they want. What happens when you do this consistently isn't just a better behaved dog. It's a dog who looks at you as the source of the most satisfying thing in their entire day. Their brain lights up. Their confidence grows. And they start orienting toward you not just out of habit, but because you're genuinely the most interesting thing in their world. And speaking of what goes on in your dog's brain, number 4 is about something almost invisible that your dog is doing right now, today, that most owners completely overlook. Don't go anywhere. 4. This one sounds too simple to be real, but the research behind it is some of the most compelling in the entire field of canine behavior. Most owners believe that bonding with their dog requires active engagement, playing, training, petting, walking. So when they're sitting on the couch reading or working at their desk and their dog is just nearby doing nothing, they feel like they're not doing enough, like the relationship is on pause. It's not. In fact, for many dogs, what's happening in those quiet moments is more meaningful than almost anything else. Here's the thing about dogs that gets overlooked in almost every conversation about bonding. Dogs are proximity animals. One of the most fundamental ways they express trust and affection is simply by choosing to be near you, not asking anything of you, not performing, just being in the same space. Researchers who study social attachment in dogs have found that the mere presence of their owner, without any interaction at all, causes measurable reductions in a dog's heart rate and cortisol levels. Your calm presence by itself is biologically regulating your dog's nervous system. You are their safe zone, their anchor, and they don't need you to do anything to feel it. They just need you to be there. What this means practically is that the hours you spend in the same room as your dog, even when neither of you is doing anything together, are building something. Every time your dog chooses to come lie near your feet instead of going to the other room, that's a vote. Here's the daily habit. Once a day, sit somewhere in your home and just let your dog exist near you with zero agenda. No commands, no petting unless they initiate it, no calling their name. Just coexist. Let them do whatever they want. What you'll notice over days and weeks is that the distance between where you sit and where your dog chooses to be gets smaller. They move closer. They relax faster. They sleep deeper. Because to a dog, the
The safest place on earth isn't the most comfortable bed or the warmest corner. It's wherever you are. And if that feels profound, wait until you hear about number 6, because there's one daily ritual that most owners either do completely wrong or skip entirely, and it may be the single most important minute you spend with your dog each day. 5. Go back to what we said in the first point, that reunion energy, that biological need dogs have to complete a greeting ritual. Now, let's go deeper into the mechanics of how dogs actually experience those first moments of contact, because most owners are skipping the most important step entirely.
Dogs don't lead with their eyes. They don't lead with sound. They lead with their nose. The nose is, without exaggeration, the primary way your dog understands the world. Dogs have up to 300 million olfactory receptors. Humans have about 6 million. The part of the brain dedicated to analyzing smells is proportionally 40 times larger in dogs than in humans. What this means is that every interaction your dog has, with another dog, with a stranger, with you, begins with a sniff. The sniff takes in information that tells your dog who you are, where you've been, how you're feeling emotionally and physically, and whether it's safe to proceed. That sniff isn't a greeting behavior. It's your dog's entire intake system doing its job. Now think about what most owners do before petting their dog. They just reach out and touch them, especially on the top of the head, which, by the way, is one of the least preferred petting spots for most dogs, even though it feels natural to humans to reach down that way. You're skipping your dog's primary sense entirely, and reaching over the top of the head from above triggers a subtle flinch response in many dogs because objects coming from overhead read on a deep instinctual level as potential threats. Here's what changes everything. Every single time, before you pet your dog, present the back of your hand at their nose level, not in their face, just nearby, within reach. Let them come to it. Let them sniff. When they do, you'll feel their nose press into your hand, and you might notice their body relax. That's the sniff completing the intake process. That's your dog's brain saying, "I've confirmed who this is." Then, and only then, pet them.
And pet them under the chin or on the chest first, not on top of the head. This takes 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds completely change the texture of every single physical interaction you have with your dog. You become the person who waits for the sniff, who lets them lead. And dogs, more than almost any other behavior, remember the people who gave them that respect. 6. Here's a question. Have you ever walked past your dog while they were sleeping and just couldn't resist leaning down to pet them? Or picked them up mid-nap because they looked too peaceful and perfect not to hold? Of course you have. We all have, because a sleeping dog is one of the most irresistible things on the planet. But here's what's actually happening when you do that, and why it matters more than most people realize. Dogs sleep between 12 and 14 hours per day on average, and some breeds sleep even more. That's not laziness. Sleep is when your dog's brain consolidates everything it learned during the day. It's when stress hormones reset. It's when muscle tissue repairs. It's when the immune system does its most important work. Sleep isn't downtime for a dog, it's maintenance. And deep sleep, the stage where your dog might twitch or make sounds, is the stage where all of that critical work happens most intensely. It's also the stage where your dog is most vulnerable. Every protective instinct is offline. Their muscles are loose, their awareness is low. They chose that spot and that moment because they felt safe enough to be completely defenseless. When you interrupt that with sudden touch or being picked up, your dog startles from deep vulnerability into sudden alertness with no context.
Even if they immediately recognize you and settle down, something was registered at the neurological level. That spot became slightly less safe. That sleep became slightly less deep. Do this consistently and you'll start noticing something. Your dog moves their sleeping spots to more hidden locations, under furniture, in closets, behind doors. They're not withdrawing from you personally. They're finding places where their sleep won't be interrupted. The habit here is one of the easiest on this entire list. When your dog is asleep, leave them alone. Walk past, resist the urge, let them finish,
And what you'll notice is that when they wake up on their own and come find you, the greeting is warmer, more present, because they're coming from rest, not from interrupted vulnerability. Which brings us to the last one, and I've been building toward this since the very beginning of this video, because number 7 is the thing that, once you understand it, will change the way you touch your dog for the rest of your life. 7. Remember when we talked about eye contact releasing oxytocin in both the dog and the owner simultaneously? That was remarkable. But there's a physical interaction that goes even further than that, one that taps into something older, deeper, and more fundamental to the canine experience than almost anything else. When dogs in the same pack groom each other, something called allo-grooming, they don't groom randomly. They groom specific areas, the areas their packmate can't reach themselves, the base of the ears, the back of the neck, the area between the shoulder blades. These are the spots that a dog cannot clean on their own, no matter how flexible they are.
And because of that, the only way a dog ever experiences touch in those spots is from someone they trust completely, from a packmate, from family. That exclusivity makes those areas neurologically different from everywhere else on your dog's body. When those spots are touched in a slow, gentle, repetitive way, the dog's brain doesn't just register pleasure, it registers belonging. Research into canine social behavior has shown that this type of social touch activates the same bonding circuitry that touch activates between bonded pack members in the wild. Here's what most owners do instead. They pet the top of the head, they scratch the back above the tail, they rub behind the ears from the front. All of these feel fine to your dog, but none of them carry the same neurological weight as what we're about to describe. The daily habit. Every single day, take 60 seconds and do this. With your dog in a calm, relaxed state, not amped up, not right after exercise, not when they're trying to get your attention for something else, place your hand at the base of their skull, right where the neck meets the head. Use your fingertips, not your palm. Apply gentle, slow, circular pressure. Move down the back of the neck toward the shoulders. Keep the pressure light and the pace slow. Think about the rhythm of waves. Watch your dog's response. Their head will drop slightly. Their eyes will soften or close. Their breathing will slow and deepen. If they're standing, their weight will shift backward. These are not just signs of relaxation. These are the physiological signatures of an oxytocin release in your dog's brain. You're not just petting your dog. You're triggering the same neurochemical response that gets triggered between bonded pack members.
And when you combine this with everything else we've covered today, the reunion ritual, the soft eye contact, the mental enrichment, the quiet presence, the nose-first greeting, the protected sleep, you're not just being a better owner. You're becoming something your dog's brain recognizes at the most fundamental level, not just the person who takes care of them, the person they belong to, the person they'd choose out of every person in the world to be near. That's what Canine Mind is about. Not just training, not just behavior, understanding what's actually happening inside your dog so that every single thing you do speaks their language. If this video changed the way you see your dog, subscribe to Canine Mind right now and share this with every dog owner you know, because most of them are working so hard to love their dogs right, and they deserve to know this too.